I'm Patrick Gallino, and let's queer up politics. Trump demands SAVE Act with anti-trans additions before signing any other laws passed by Congress. President Donald Trump says he will not sign any new legislation unless Congress first passes the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act, widely known as the SAVE Act, with additional provisions targeting transgender people. The bill, which would significantly tighten voter registration requirements in the United States, has already passed the U.S. House of Representatives and is currently awaiting approval in the U.S. Senate. On his platform, Truth Social, Trump said, quote, "Go for the gold, must show voter ID and proof of citizenship. No mail-in ballots except for military, illness, disability, travel. No men in women's sports, no transgender mutilization for children. Do not fail, 3 exclamation points, unquote." The SAVE Act would require voters to present photo identification to register for federal elections. Those without ID could be required to provide documents such as a birth certificate. Voting rights advocates argue the measure could impact tens of millions of eligible voters who may not have access to those documents. Neither the anti-trans issue mentioned in Trump's post currently appears in the bill's text at all. Any such measures would need to be added through amendments and then approved again by both chambers of Congress. Meanwhile, Chuck Schumer, leader of Senate Democrats, strongly criticized the legislation. Calling the bill, quote, Jim Crow 2.0, unquote, Schumer wrote on Twitter, quote, "Senate Democrats will not help pass the SAVE Act under any circumstances," unquote. He also warned of total gridlock in the Senate if Trump refuses to sign other legislation. Well, I mean, at best, this is just some of the most tone-deaf incompetence I've ever seen. At the worst, it's what it probably is, and it's our cheater-in-chief once again attempting to steal elections in the form of the midterms later this year. I mean, you know, I am so grateful that I get to travel and that I have a passport, and I'm sure present company included. But, you know, those same people that are championing Trump because the Dow is up lack complete empathy because they don't know what it's like to not have $100 plus, let alone to get a passport, but to be able to have the privilege to get on a plane and see the world. And I think part of this too, you know, is just dumbing down the populace to keep them from voting, right?
And it's already been proven that there's a lot of his own voters that would be disenfranchised.
So it could backfire, do you think?
Yeah, because I mean, again, if you look at the red states and the population of like who has passports and you know, rural areas that voted for him, those are a lot of people that may not have access to that same documentation. So on top of it, you know, being restrictive for everyone, especially, but it's his own voters that it could
his own voters,
which is why Republicans, I don't think it'll pass in the Senate because I think Republicans also know that, first of all. But I think the bigger issue here is like how he just kind of Tourette syndrome out the trans thing during a press conference about the war.
I was going to say it sounded like a word salad mixed with word vomit. It was like transgendered, pass the bill, go for the gold.
The war questions aren't going good, so bring up transgender. It's like a button somebody pushed. Like they zapped him like while he was at the podium.
Complete distraction. Did someone say Epstein files?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, and then using the word that's not a word, mutilization.
No.
Go back to our teacher here. That is not a word.
It is not a word, but I do want to, it does follow some rules of English that he made it mutilization. I mean, it sounds like it should be a word, but it's not a word.
Yes.
And it's awful that he's insinuating that gender affirming care is mutilization. But, you know, just from a historical point of view, what happens with Republicans is he knows that his base is highly motivated and highly mobilized. He doesn't care if he loses 10, 15, 20% of that base if they can't get access to a passport, their birth certificate, their birth records, things like that. what he knows for sure is that Democrats are unmotivated by and large to vote. So if he knocks off the Democrats, doesn't get as many Republicans, but gets all of his Republicans that are already in his base, that are solidly in his base, it's a win-win for him. So it sounds counterintuitive, but it's really not if you're thinking about it clearly and looking at the voting patterns. He knows that there are going to be people that will live and die by Donald Trump. So they are going to vote for him. They will get a passport. They will find their birth certificate. They will do what they need to do. The ones that can't do that, they just won't vote for him. They'll still support him. He won't get the vote on paper. He'll still have the broad support. And it's a win for him because he knows Democrats are not going to mobilize unless we pull off a miracle. And anybody out there, if you haven't voted, go get registered to vote. It seems like you're going to need your birth certificate. Make some plans to talk to your mom or your dad or whoever it is that, might know how to get that for you. Look it up. We need you. Our democracy depends on it.
And did you see yesterday he stood at a lectern and literally said, now this isn't why I'm doing this, but the only way we're going to win Republicans, the midterms, is if this passes. He told everyone what he's going to do. And I'll tell you, the only way I would support, forget about the trans stuff, that's ridiculous for that to be in there, but the only way I would support requiring a passport would be if there were also legislation that provided funding for every person in this country that doesn't have one and has never traveled with a plane ticket to go somewhere in the world and see another culture. Because I guarantee once people did and actually experienced how wonderful the world is, they wouldn't be voting for Donald Trump ever again.
I am not poo-pooing what you're saying at all, but one of the vocabulary words that I taught my students today in our book is idealism. And the definition of idealism is thinking that the world can be a better place than it already is through the actions that we take. So I absolutely love your idealistic spirit. I think that is a wonderful idea. More Americans should get out there. I think they did a study where it was, I don't want to make up false numbers, but it was shockingly low, the amount of Americans that have not traveled internationally or even gone to like the Bahamas. I don't even consider that international, even though it is. Even if you do that, even if it's just a day trip to the Bahamas for the first time, you're not technically in the United States anymore. You get to kind of feel what the air is like.
It's very unusual. It's not very unusual for many people across the country. I was on a cruise once and I met a woman that was looking out at the ocean. We were doing the sail away and she's like, oh my God, the ocean is so beautiful. We were in Miami and I said, yeah. And she's like, I've never seen the ocean before. And she was like 60 and I was like, you've never seen the Atlantic Ocean? Because I was like, where are you from? She was like, Oklahoma. So I thought, maybe have you been to she was like, no, I've never been to the ocean. So not even out there. So she was leaving the country on a cruise, but she had never seen the ocean before. So that was shocking to me.
I love that you got to share that moment with her.
Yeah, like she said it out loud and I looked at her and I was like, oh yeah, I said, I live here. And she was like, oh my God, I can't imagine she had never seen the ocean. So let alone going to another country, she had never seen the ocean.
I grew up on Lake Erie near Buffalo and I couldn't understand why we were told to color water blue. I was like, it's all brown with green lumps in it, a dead fish. So when I saw the ocean for the first time, wow. But that was not at 60 then.
Well, there is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by sharing them and subscribing to Queer News Tonight.